Hello, I am Wallas, the Polish toy guy. Thank you for joining me in today's video, which is going to be a toy review of Transformers Titans Return Deluxe Class SKULLSMASHER and Grax. So, just in case this is your very first experience with Transformers Titans Return, as it is my first review of a toy from this line, let me just say a word or two about it. Basically, Titans Return is the next stage of Transformers Generations after Combiner Wars, introduced in 2016. Now the main gimmick is no longer combining several robots into a bigger entity, now it's combining a robot's body with his head. Basically, yeah, we have a main figure, and then his head can separate, transform into a smaller partner, and be swapped with other characters and do many other things. So, yes, it's still combination, it's still interaction, and it offers plenty options of interacting, which is great. But I will say, overall, ever since I was a kid, I was never a big fan of the idea of all of these masters. Target masters, powers masters, especially headmasters. Basically, I like the Japanese interpretation where the head is transforming from the real robot and connecting to an external power-up body, but in most American medias outside Japan, it's basically a robot and his partner who is a separate entity, and then he transforms into the head of the said robot to help him in his fight. That's really something that I can't find logical in any way on the battlefield. What do you do if your head partner decides, I don't want to transform, oh, I have other business to attend? Sorry, you are on your own, stuck in your vehicle mode, and possibly with only half of your weapons and options available. Sorry, better luck next time. And there's this sort of duality for me with this, because while the gimmick is silly, I really like the designs of these guys. So all target masters, power masters, headmasters, I like how they look. So chances are, if I have the opportunity, I will collect more of these toys. Especially that I have some minor attachments to some of them, like I have with SKULLSMASHER, aka Skullcruncher, before licensing issues kicked in. I never had the original toy, and I'm not really attached to the character because I don't think he had enough of plot in his history, but I had a blue and pink bootleg of the original G1 toy, and it helped me through some rough times in my childhood, so I am kind of attached to Skullcruncher, SKULLSMASHER, and I'm happy I got him. More about my history with him can be found in the video that's popping right now into the card area. Now, on to the main review. And here is SKULLSMASHER in his beast mode, an alligator or a crocodile. I'm being told opinions on his exact species are divided, and he's a streamlined, hefty, nice toy made out of plastic and a bit of rubber. He sits really well in the hand, I'll tell him that, and also the thing that catches my eye from the very start, he is one big deluxe, at least he has this optical vibe to him. He is 25 centimeters long head to tail, so he can look bigger than some of the modern Voyager class toys, so that is something that I really like. And yes, the Generation 1 toy also transformed into this alligator crocodile, but a far more mechanical one. This is somewhat streamlined. This passes like something that is borderline techno-organic. And let's look at all of these nice details. Yes, we have things that look like a robot, but some that look like an organic being. And I especially like these protruding spikes all over his body. Now, not everyone will like this fairly odd green and pink color scheme, but it's both faithful and eye-catching, and you can get used to it really quick. And yes, as you can see, we have several holes in the hull. This is cost cutting on Hasbro and Takara's part to save costs of plastic. And in this mode, it's not really all that annoying. Actually, in the entirety of this toy, it's not really a big problem. You don't notice this all that much because this blends in either with the background or with other parts of the toy that can be seen through these holes. And overall you concentrate on the fact that this is one nice mechanical vicious looking predator. And a predator that has both visible teeth when the jaw is closed, and you can lift up his upper jaw to reveal more details that are really great. More teeth, this really great segmented tongue. Yes, it's not painted, but given that this is a robot, I think the fact that this is grey actually helps enforce the feeling of this being a robot. This is great. And of course, yes, this is rubber, so you don't kill yourself with this. And we have some paint in the eyes, red, very nice, looks dangerous. And we have some grey paint over here with a small Decepticon logo. And here we have some more details that actually emulate the stickers from the Generation 1 toy, which is a nice touch. We have some paint over here at the claws of the hinder legs. This is bare plastic. Not much else going on in terms of paint scheme, though one thing that's interesting is this whole section is actually pink plastic that's painted over with green. If you look very closely, you will see that the genuine plastic has a slightly more vibrant hue to it. This looks slightly more dull in color terms. I don't know why this is actually painted over, but yeah, you can see in some places the green is flaking off and we see the real nature of the plastic. No idea why they couldn't just make it green like this. This would certainly save a lot of paint and allow them to relocate it to other places. Not that I can think of many of them that need more painting in this mode. We will never know. The one cool thing is that the original Headmaster toy of Skullcruncher could carry its Headmaster, or in this case Titan Master, in his head, behind his tongue. Here, not possible, but I welcome this change. Instead, the Headmaster Grax is hidden in this belly compartment that you access by lifting this hatch. Now, many people have complained that this hatch is a pain to open because unlike the rest of the main body, this is actually hard rubber. So I think technically we're supposed to have a notch to put our fingernail over here, but it's not always easy, so I prefer to just grab this protrusion with what's left of my fingernail and pull it back like so, and this allows me to lift this up to reveal Grax, who is sitting literally at the controls of SKULLSMASHER. He sits nicely like inside of a tank cockpit, and we get him out the old-fashioned way, like so. And for now we let's just take a look at this nice cockpit, which is... That's not very well lit. Hang on, give me a second. I hope this helps you see that inside we have multiple details. We have a small seat, but in front of it we have this small console with a screen, so this helps to enforce the idea that Grax is not merely a passenger being carried by SKULLSMASHER. In case of emergency, he can actually help him by partially taking over control of his body to improve the chances of surviving the battle. I really like this small touch. And we can close this off, we don't need this. And let's take a look at Grax himself. I think he's still somewhere over here. Yes, he was nearby, and this is him in his fully straightened out humanoid mode. I'm not sure if he's supposed to be organic or robotic in nature, but as you've seen, he was sitting inside the cockpit when he was shaped, posed like this, like a driver, though these arms put to the front is my idea. The instruction manual actually tells you to just fold things like this, but I think that other view was better. It emulated a proper driver much more. And you can technically put the arms a bit higher, but I'm not sure if that's not actually damaging the sculpt a bit, because the sharp angle on this part makes it difficult to cross this helmet piece. And when you look over here, that's of course SKULLSMASHER's face in its whole partly torn apart glory. Many Generation 1 toys also had no mechanism to cover up the face, especially the smaller ones, so this is no surprise. What I do like though is that Grax's head actually looks like a miniature version of this. It has the proper paint, the proper eyes. It looks kind of nice, as well as these chest details do. Overall, this is a nice, decently detailed toy for its size and what it's supposed to do, which is sit inside, transform into a head, and also, in case of Titan's Return toys, these can now be mounted in their humanoid forms onto the toy. You can see here is a small protruding peg, and here are two holes in the legs, so you can actually put one and the other like so. And now Grax can ride on SKULLSMASHER. If you have another Headmaster, no, Titan Master, you can also peg him on the other side. And that's an interesting idea. This works way better or way worse depending on the toy, because some of them have these pegs placed in better places. For example, I think that for SKULLSMASHER, this area would be much better. It would make more sense to have Grax ride like a victorious pilot over here when his friend is on autopilot or in control in general. This looks silly considering that in a battle these elements would be constantly moving to allow further progression. But this is a toy, logic does not always have to work, but the gimmick itself is a nice way of adding some extra features. It kind of reminds me of Transformers Armada, but I think I like it here way better. And SKULLSMASHER also includes some poseability in this mode, although I'm not really sure if you're ever going to use it, because for me this default stance is the preferred one. It gives him the best stature, the best look, but if you want to experiment you can also use these ball joints in his hind legs. This is the only point of articulation for this part of the robot, or the beast mode. And over here you can move his elbows, swing the arms at 2 points. You can technically move this a bit, but all of this is mainly for the robot mode and transformation. The best part of the poseability, aside from the moving jaws, is that the head is on a ball joint, so you can do a lot of things with it if you want, and this is actually a part of the first handling of this toy. This head is easy to dislocate, and it's actually dislocated inside the packaging, and you have to reattach it before you start playing with SKULLSMASHER, which is an easy task. Like so. It's designed to pop off if you apply too much force. One thing that I like about this poseability is that we have a waggling tail, like so. I don't know, for some reason I really like this feature. It's silly, it's not really changing anything, but the fact that you can waggle this left and right is something that my inner child really likes. Okay, I think that covers the beast mode fairly well, so now it's time for some comparisons. So here we have, of course, SKULLSMASHER, and here we have Deluxe Prime Robots in Disguise Bumblebee. We have Generations Deluxe Blur, Masterpiece Hot Rodimus, and just for laughs, Generation 1 Throttlebot Searchlight. And what I really like is how big this guy is optically. He is pretty much twice the length of Bumblebee. And now we can proceed to transforming SKULLSMASHER into his robot mode, which is simple but not our dexterity offending simple, so a good balance. We start by ripping off his tail, his two weapons, like so, and while we are here we can flip out his legs 180 degrees so that they land beneath these pieces, like so. And while we do it, usually this force is enough to separate the legs already, like so. It's not a very sturdy connection, but it works well enough for beast mode. And as you can see, the legs also almost automatically lock into the posts over here, so you just push them in gently and they won't go anywhere. We can now flip out his toes, the front of his feet, and the bottom part of robot mode is complete. Now the upper part is kind of interesting because while it deviates from Generation 1 toy, I think it slightly takes some inspiration from the fans project homage to Skullcruncher. You'll see in a moment why do I think so. First off, we have to lift the head with this part of the neck. We have this double hinge over here, and we move them up so that the head collapses on the back completely, making the hatch inoperable, like so. And here's the fans project inspired part, I think. You have these arms that are angled and they are pegged in with two small pegs to the main body, so you separate them like so. Now we spin the majority of the arms towards the main body, like so. We flip up the beast mode talons and we flip down the hand, and we do it on the other side, so we have something symmetrical. And we have revealed the Titan Master port, so we take our Grax, we curl him up like so, and then we use his own head to dock in with SKULLSMASHER, like so. And with that done, SKULLSMASHER in his robot mode is now complete. And I have to say, I really like what I see. This is definitely Generation 1 Skullcruncher in a modern body. You can't mistake him for anyone else, which is good. We've seen most of the details from the legs in beast mode, but as you can see, we have new toe details, we have knee guard details, we have upper leg details, we have really nice chest details, although not all that much paint aside from these red spots and this white. That's all the paint the chest gets. No paint over here whatsoever. And again we have the head, which looks nice for the most part. I like all of the sculpting, I just don't like the eyes. It's something very weird. It looks like his nose bridge has usurped the part of his visor. In Generation 1 he actually had a red visor, if I remember correctly. This looks like someone just forcefully applied another plate to his nose, partly obscuring his eyes, and I don't like that, which is a shame because the rest of the head looks really great. I like the expression, the paint. I probably have to look at the Japanese version. I think they fixed that over there, but then again it's not that of a big deal to make me look for the Japanese release. And at the back we have surprisingly little kibble, only the gator head, but Generation 1 Skullcruncher also had this limited just to that part, only it was pointing the other way around like this. And yes, we can see some empty spaces here. This is plastic cutting. This is even a bigger offender, but actually this is accurate to the Generation 1 toy. And I think that these empty spaces have drawn our attention more in the recent series, but they were present in pretty much every Transformers series that existed. We just had a varying amount of attention devoted to them. But it's nothing really that annoying, especially that I don't intend to display my toy in the rear view, nothing like that. This view is the one that interests me, and I think it makes up for what we see on the back more than enough. And thankfully, even with these large parts of his lower legs missing, SKULLSMASHER has absolutely no issues with standing both straight and in various poses. Now it's time to take a look at the poseability, which for this time and class is nice, although for some reason it seems that the majority of toys of SKULLSMASHER have very loose legs, and I'm going to demonstrate it by also making a rather poor impression of some Gmod animations. you see, very, very loose. It's not something that makes me annoyed during posing, but it's something that's definitely noticeable from the very start. As soon as you take this guy out of the box, you notice these loose legs. And yet, this is somehow hypnotizing. Let's take a look at the head first. It's on a ball joint made out of the head of Grax, so it has a nice amount of articulation. It looks to the sides, slightly tilts, very limited up and down movement, just a wiggle. Now we have the arms, which are on a ball joint, so it can move without any problems. A full vertical circle, nothing to hinder it on the back, which is great. And to move it to the side, you actually have to use this transformation hinge, which kind of looks unnatural to me, but it's a passable solution. We have a bicep swivel, like so, not limited by anything. We have also the elbow, 90 degrees, and we have another swivel below it for the transformation, and no articulation for the hands, but I suppose you can use the talons as a legitimate weapon in this mode, so that's a nice, if probably accidental feature. And of course we can't forget about the lower part. We have waist swivel, which looks and works really nice, not hindered by anything, a very clear separation of front and back, so no kibble in the way. We have the hips, which allow us to make a full split, as well as to kick really high and nicely kick to the back. Okay, maybe not super high, but given the limitations of some transformers, this is still a very nice result. And due to the transformation, we have a double knee joint. Though the problem is, due to the looseness, the one that you noticed first is not the actual knee. The knee is over here, like so. It's tight, very tight, so it's just much easier to move this part that you are not supposed to move. And we have a bit of toe articulation that's not really part of the range of motion. And as you may have noticed, the legs are cut in a way that the default stance of SKULLSMASHER is legs slightly apart, which is something that I see in modern Transformers a lot. I'm not sure whether to dislike it or like it, but it's something that you just have to take into account when playing with these toys. Now let's also take a look at the tail of the alligator crocodile again, because this is the dual weapon of SKULLSMASHER. You separate it like so to have his fairly recognizable gun. Just a single unpainted piece of plastic with some cuts to give us a lower plastic mass. It's nothing that really annoys me, though these kind of look almost like they're humorously 3D printed rather than mold injected. But it's a nice gun. And we have the tail, which has several points of attachment actually. The main one is this handle that goes into the hand. And I suppose this can act as a whip of sorts, but I think these elements are supposed to be small barrels, and this grip also looks like a barrel, so technically this could pass as a gun. And this flips out. And let's attach these things to SKULLSMASHER. And with weapons attached, SKULLSMASHER looks really nice. I wouldn't be surprised if you actually saw this image as a preview for this review. First, I really like this pose, and as you can see, no problems with loose joints in the arms. Everything is light enough to stay in the place we designated. And even these loose legs, once left alone, they don't pose any problem. At least right now they don't. If this changes in the future, I might make a small update to let you know. And like many other modern generations toys, you can put SKULLSMASHER on a display stand using this dedicated hole. It fits Tamashii stages, Figma stands, also Takara's own flight stands that we've seen, for example, with Masterpiece tracks. And while this feature is not really a game breaker, depending on your imagination it can be a really welcomed bonus to this toy. And what I do like is that we get extra points of attachment for these weapons if we want. We have 2 points at the shoulders, we have another one under the beast mode's jaw, so you can give SKULLSMASHER a nice 5-weapon Rambo mode if you want. And also, if you want, you can actually turn the tail into a decent shield by using these cutouts in the tail and plugging the talons of your preferred hand of the robot through them. This is a fairly nice connection. Not the perfect one, but as you can see it stays, and of course you can add more weapons to this. And we also get one more gimmick for the weapons that's dedicated to the Titan Masters. If we combine them, we usually can make some kind of a battle platform out of these weapons, as we can with the gun and tail of SKULLSMASHER. As you can see, inside we have seat details and we have a small hole that corresponds to a peg at the bottom of the legs. So we put our Titan Master, preferably not the one that's sitting on SKULLSMASHER's head right now. And now we have a mini vehicle slash battle platform for the Titan Master so that he can aid his bigger allies in the fight. And this can be both held in the hand of SKULLSMASHER using this flip out handle like so. And we can also flip this back, and technically it will stand on its own with all of these spikes, but it doesn't look all that convincing as some kind of hoverboat or anything, so I think this works better in SKULLSMASHER's hand nonetheless. Or some other places if you don't mind the silliness involved. And now it's time for comparisons again, so we'll start off by putting some Generations toys next to SKULLSMASHER. Here we have Combiner Wars Voyager Cyclonus and Titans Return Deluxe Hardhead and Furos. And here we have some other Transformers, including Robots in Disguise, Deluxe, Power Surge Optimus Prime and Beast Wars Mega Class Transmetal Megatron. And finally, some real-life references, including the common cola can, $1 and the newest volume of One Punch Man in Poland. To sum it all up, I really enjoyed SKULLSMASHER and Grax. This toy looks great in both modes, has a simple yet satisfying transformation sequence, and there's just so many things you can do with it besides shapeshifting it. The poseability, the various weapon applications, the Titan Master interactions both inside and outside of the set. There's just a lot of fun to be had here for a deluxe sized toy, and I'm really happy how this robot works both as a display collector piece and as a regular toy. Granted, it's not perfect, with the main annoyance being the loose legs, but I don't think the weaknesses of SKULLSMASHER overshadow his strengths in any significant way. With that said, I recommend him to both collectors and people who just want to have fun with their toys. Both groups should be happy with this figure. And that's all for this video review. I will be back with the next one soon, and until then, stay well. Thank you for watching.